Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we're going to be looking at the Space DLC announcement, digesting what the developers said about it, and going through it together. Now with that in mind, here we are looking at my new Buckle dealership showroom. This is going to hit the workshop soon here. I'm just doing some last minute working with Sheppy to see if we can add a couple more features, but most of it is live. It is available to the boosters of my Discord server, and it is available to the Golden Anchor Club members, but it is only in beta release, so it's not an official release. So if you're in those clubs, you will get to use and test out the dealership. Now I will go through it in another video obviously, but in this video we're going to be talking about the space, so let's get going. So here we are looking at the Stormworks on Steam, and the first thing that they told us is this DLC announcement. So they had the announcement where they pretty much said that there's going to be a live stream and that it's a closely guarded secret, and they're going to start by showing the trailer and answering questions in the chat. So there was no reference made here to the space. There was some cool looking ship loaders though. That's a really nice conveyor ship loader. There's some beautiful creations that were screenshotted here. Again, nothing to do with space. So that brings us to the actual announcement and the Space DLC news bulletin. So the first thing wasn't the bulletin, the first thing was the video and the stream that they did, and I'm just going to run through with my commentary as we watch. So it shows a cool convoy of trucks going to a space launch facility. You can see that they're wearing the space gear. Now here we see a really cool space launch. It looks like there's two booster rockets and then the rocket in the back up on that massive gantry or structure. If you watch later on, it's going to show boosters, it's going to show all sorts of different rockets and applications, so the launching into space, but I could see applications of that on land too. Now this is neat. It's an underwater testing facility to mimic the low gravity environment of the moon. So there's actually people diving here wearing the space gear and simulating how the low gravity environment of the moon is, so you can kind of get a feeling. And this is something they do in real life, so that was really cool that they showed that, you know, how to repair things, how to dive, how to test, so you kind of almost learn or mimic that gravity environment on Earth to sort of make sure your mission is successful when you get up there. So that's cool to see. Really cool structures here, spaceships, I mean epic creations. Now when it comes back down to Earth, you retrieve it with your ships, helicopters, you know, you get your people, your astronauts back to land. This is showing a mobile space launch. So this is actually kind of what they have in Cape Canaveral in Florida when they launch the spaceships. You have a massive, almost like a transport that can position itself for the launch. So super cool to see that. This is what I was talking about. So this is something that I would love to see, even not for the application of space, but for drones, because you can now use thrusters to sort of position yourself in the atmosphere on land as well, not just in space. So that's kind of this. It would be an interesting drone application. Maybe you could make a miniature drone from that. But all these creations just look amazing. I mean, the size of them, the speed, just really cool. Now, I will say that I wasn't expecting Stormworks to be a platform for space. I will admit that. But after seeing this video, I am convinced that the developers have made an incredible breakthrough and an incredible job to sort of make such a thing possible, because this looks really cool, and it would be amazing to try to do this in the game. Look at that, repairing things. You have like the umbilical, so you're connected to your spaceship and you get air fed to you. So I'm curious how that works with the spacesuit, and then you have the docking center to lock onto the main spaceship, or if you launch like a satellite or something, you may be able to get into it. So there's a lot of different options and features that I see just from this video. Of course, the moon environment looks incredible. I watched the rest of the stream, but so here it's showing all this cool stuff, you know, conquering the moon pretty much, making cool vehicles, epic vehicles. So it adds a whole new thing, a whole new, not just biome, literally a whole new world to the game. So Stormworks Space, from this video, it looks awesome. I am very excited. So in the video, the developers actually said a really cool thing. They were talking about sails and how they have explored making like a sailboat sail work, and the physics and all that stuff, which is interesting because that's one of the things that I mentioned in one of my videos, how to, what features that should be in Stormworks 2. Obviously, I didn't necessarily mean Stormworks 2 literally, I meant in the future of Stormworks that would be an interesting feature, so they mentioned that, and they actually credit me by name, so I do want to play it just to show you guys. I'm very honored to have the developers mention me. I love this game so much, and I think that they're seeing that, so I do feel honored. If they name a part of the moon for me, I'll be thrilled even more, but even just the mention in the video.
Paused. Fishing is something we're very, very interested in. 454 did a great video that really broke it down, and I think we'll certainly give that a lot of credit, because there's nothing we love.
So I appreciate them giving me the credit. Like, I pretty much took the fishing idea, broke it down into how they could make it work, and the developers are sort of giving me a lot of credit, so thank you so much, guys. They're giving me the credit for saying, proposing an idea that was already thought out, versus just, screaming, oh, make fishing, but not really explaining what I had in mind. I gave them pretty much a broken down proposal of the different types of fishing, be it small leisure fishing or recreational fishing, or, fishing fleets, how they could do it. So they've watched my video. Thank you so much, developers of Stormworks, for acknowledging and for mentioning me by name. I really do appreciate that.
More than when a player kind of takes responsibility for an idea and works through it, and is really specific about exactly what they mean when they're making their request. It makes it really easy for us to imagine, can it be done, can it not be done? Because I think a lot of the time with the big feature requests, we're concerned about developing the feature and then it actually not being quite how the players imagined.
I will just interrupt also to say that this landscape of the moon looks incredible. When they're zooming in with the infrared binoculars, like the little different areas of the space, looks so cool.
And there being disappointment there, because that's the last thing we want to do. I think when players are really specific and clear about exactly what their level of expectation would be, that makes it super easy for us. I think if you are fishing, you can thank 454 for making that a lot more likely.
Yeah, thank you so much. So hopefully the fishing update or fishing DLC is in the works, but even the reference and mention. But I'm glad to have provided you with some ideas, Stormworks developers. I do actually have a list of other potential things, and I do plan on making more videos showcasing some of my ideas and breaking them down in detail. Whether you make them or not, that is up to you. Whether it's popular in the community, that's something that has to be determined, but it's just fun for me to think of different ideas and propose them to you and see if your reaction or take on it. So back to the announcement here. So we now know that the DLC is going to be out 12th of October, so a little over a month and a half, which is awesome. And it pretty much has the trailer here and talks about the different things, which we're going to go through now. So it's saying that you travel from the Earth through the atmosphere, across the vacuum of space, and land on a moon. It's 900 square kilometers, which is fairly large. Very large, actually. That's a good amount of area to explore and find new things, and not to mention the ability to test out your spaceship in the vacuum with the different forces being applied to it, as it's passing through the atmosphere, all that stuff. That's really cool to have to envision and use the forces. So take a look at this. New simulations. Gravity will be simulated and weakens as you travel away from the Earth and Moon. Ascend high for a geostationary orbit, or build horizontal velocity for a lower orbit, so you can actually sort of have almost a plane-like creation that almost goes where the satellites go, or you can fully leave the atmosphere. And then this is where the vacuums and gases. So they said that they're going to have the vacuum and compressed gases introduced with this update. So we can expect this DLC to also include the new gases, which is super interesting. And they've introduced now oxygen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and nitrogen parts of air. Maintain life support, or avoid overpressure, under pressure. So you can, injure your character if you don't have the right levels of, oxygen, life support. You have to equalize pressure before opening doors or risk being sucked out. So the rapid decompression or vacuum effect can suck you out. It could probably also cause damage. I mean, in real life, you also can get explosions or like parts of a vehicle getting ripped apart, space vehicle getting ripped apart, if you do a massive or introduce a massive vacuum. New components propel through space with new liquid fuel engines fueled by compressed oxygen and hydrogen, which can be manufactured using electrolysis, RSC thrusters, gyroscopic actuators for fine control. That's what we were watching in the video, the little creation that I said it could be a drone. New navigation components position you where there's no GPS coverage. That's actually interesting. So you're on space, you don't use GPS to find where your location is, so you have to use other things. Build spacewalk kit with the new seats. Okay, so with the new seats you can have like different space gear attached to it. New equipment operate in vacuum with the new spacesuit. Limited air supply can be recharged in some seats, so that's they're saying you could have like the connection. Limitations. Our take on space simulation has some limitations, mostly because the game engine wasn't originally designed for space. That's fair enough. For example, while in a seat you have 6 degrees of freedom as usual, outside of a seat the player always orientates consistently with the same up direction, so you kind of float upwards, it seems. Taking the fat planar world of Stormworks, yeah, that's what I was curious, because your land mass now is flat, and you have to take off and all of a sudden be in space where you have a spherical moon. So they're taking a flat planar world of Stormworks and getting this to work as a spherical body. Simulation required a lot of thought. The surface of the Earth and moon will wrap around. Our solution remaps 3D space along gravitational field lines and mostly makes sense in quantum space. So, very interesting. It seems they're actually taking our world, or the map that we currently have now, and making it also a sphere. So you can land on a certain area that's going to be the North Pole, perhaps, and then there's going to be maybe a landmass that's our arid island, then a different landmass for the other island. So interesting. So depending on where you take off from and where you land back on Earth can have also some effects. So you have to kind of keep a lookout on that, which is very interesting. And then they say major updates. So as usual, this DLC is accompanied with major updates to the game, compatibility, all that stuff. They'll be available in the base game, the new components, but with limited functionality, so you can keep it just like what they did for the weapons DLC. So awesome, that looks really cool. You can see here they have some screenshots similar to what we just saw in the video, pretty much the introduction of the new elements that you will find, and planned released October 12th. And here is just kind of a summary of what we said, the components, the equipment, missions. So they did mention that in the video, that there's going to be space missions, rescues, retrievals, all that stuff. And one other thing that's interesting here, they mentioned gimbal controls allow thrust vectoring, so that's how the little drone vehicle can work. Split water into oxygen and hydrogen using electrolysis. So there's different things that they've added here that it requires like an engineering thought process or mindset to even make work. You have to understand. I mean, I'm reading some of this and even I don't know it because I'm not a space engineer or anything of the sort. So looking at this, I'm seeing things that will require learning, very similar to when they released the oil drilling. There was a learning curve, so I definitely see a learning curve here. You can't just go ahead and throw something together and say it's a working spaceship that's going to take you to the space. No, you have to do some research and thinking, maybe land tests, all that stuff. What's interesting, actually, space new update introduces space. The atmosphere thins out. Okay, increase speed. Sure, embark on your journey through a vacuum to the moon's surface. So, anyway, really cool. I just like reading about this because I'm seeing sort of really cool engineering ideas that can be used to sort of get you up there to space, and even just make you maybe orbit the land. Like, you take off now, so a fast enough plane could actually maybe get you close enough to the atmosphere where you can orbit the Earth. Instead of just flying in a linear direction north or south, it's now going to be a sphere. So I'm actually very curious how that works, and curious to see how this looks when it comes out. But I'm definitely going to be buying this, and I mean, we'll revisit it once it's out. But that is all that I have for now. I mean, I do recommend you watch the video that the developers released. You'll learn a lot from what they talk about, what they show you. And until then, I will see you next time. So happy Stormworksing, everyone, and take care.